I'm Johnny Cash. Yeah! Welcome to another exciting episode of this godforsaken show. And first of all, I'd like to go ahead and say we've got a very special guest in the room tonight. Sally didn't even know about this.
Really?
Yeah. Her name is Shelly. May not sound special just yet, but wait a minute. Today is Shelly's birthday.
Really?
Yep. So I want everybody to wish Shelly the happiest goddamn birthday she can possibly have.
Happy birthday, Shelly. Have the happiest birthday you'll ever have. Hopefully not you will ever have, because then that would mean that every year after this would be a steady decline.
Yeah. Well, they only seem to get worse, I think, as you get older. I mean, that's the way I've come to view it myself, and I'm sure that people of older generations share that sentiment. But anyway, tonight's Shelly's birthday. I think she's having a bit of a rough day, especially coming on the show here and hearing me talk about strippers. So, because everybody knows, oh my God, I almost said Sally. She's going to kill me for that, too. She's going to take an ice pick and go horizontally through my larynx for that. But anyway, Shelly being the love of my life. And so it's very special when she has a birthday. To me, I even got her a present.
Woo.
Which is a big fucking deal, but there's a whole history behind that. But Shelly, baby, I love you. Happy birthday.
All right.
Yeah. So let's get on with it, shall we?
Yes, we shall.
All right. So you sent me some links earlier. Oh, let me get over something real fast.
Alrighty.
The whole phone call thing. The lines are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But at no time are they more open
than right now.
Yes, then when the goddamn show's on. Not 10 minutes before it ends and not 5 minutes after we go off the air. And the popular thing to say is, well, we heard you saying, well, you were going on this and going on about this, and we didn't want to break it up. Forget about that. It's a radio show. I have to keep talking. Mm-hmm. So if I said, okay, now we're taking calls, and I sat here, remember the 2-minute delay, first of all, and then remember the reluctance that everybody has to call in the first place, so we may very well sit here for 20 or 30 minutes just waiting for somebody to call. So,
awkward silences don't go well on the radio.
No.
So
I got to keep it rolling, so I'll talk about anything. And Sally, she's getting around to being that way as well, so, we're trying to do a respectable kind of thing here. And so, if you got something to talk about, call in. First, we want to talk about Venezuela, because Sally seems to be under the impression that she's going to hand my ass to me.
Did I say? I did not say that in the email.
You didn't put it in that word.
I did not even imply that in my email.
Really? Let me read it, because that's the impression I got.
It was 3 sentences. No, it was 2 sentences of fragment.
That's right. You put, it's 2 sentences, and you put 2 links. It says, the first line, I am looking forward to tonight, and then it shows the 2 links, and then the last line, Chavez is messing up, should be interesting.
Uh-huh. That nowhere in that implies ass on a plate or anything.
Yeah.
Anything like that.
I'm looking forward to tonight with the little smiley face at the end.
That was supposed to be cute.
It wasn't cute. I said, she thinks she's going to be like, where's Chavez now, bitch? Yeah.
No, I just found it really funny because, I was actually, I agree that I've come to the conclusion that in most cases, nearly all cases, socialism is very, very bad. And not only is it bad on the bare philosophical level, but it usually turns out bad.
Well, so does capitalism.
Not nearly in the same way as no.
Yeah.
No, nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Nah.
Which will
Okay.
lead me into a different conversation later that I was getting into last night. I'll bring that
Okay,
later.
well, but FYI, I'm not going into this as like I didn't mean this to be aggressive at all, because I was very intrigued by Chavez. I was like, he has the weekly radio show Hello President. I was kind of endearing.
Sure.
And
Great guy.
the big FU to the U.S. when he paired up with Iran and all that we were talking about on an earlier show. And the nationalization of resources was just an interesting thing, and I was intrigued to see where it would go from here.
Right.
And then when I heard out that Congress had given him the power of law by decree about a week ago, maybe more than that.
Yeah, I told you about that.
Yeah, just a while ago. And so that was like, ooh, what's going to happen now? And now then I saw a thread on a forum that had all these links, and I was reading about it, and now socialism is rearing its ugly head with price fixing and goods shortages.
No. What you have here is because I even saw the law by decree as a negative sign. The way I mentioned it in the video as well saying it to you, is that it was actually kind of a darker side of what's going on there that I didn't agree with, and this is a consequence, and I'll tell you why. Because as I was reading this article, this is and I'm going to defend Chavez on this, but I'm not defending his right to law by decree, but I will defend him as a person and the social aspects.
Well, no, I'm not attacking this. I'm not attacking this.
I know, but I'm just saying for everybody, basically, that I'm going to be defending him for a moment, because right here at the beginning of this article it says, meat cuts vanished from Venezuelan supermarkets this week, leaving only unsavory bits like chicken feet, while costly artificial sweeteners have increasingly replaced sugar, and many staples sell far above government fixed prices. All right? Yeah, that's the ugly side of socialism. But it's the other side of socialism that a lesson has been learned on, which Hugo Chavez obviously does not have a grasp on. Okay?
Right.
This is his failings as a man. He's not an economist, and for him to have the law of decree means that he is going to make mistakes, much like Castro did. Castro didn't make a lot of them, but he's going to make mistakes. But here's the key. The second paragraph of this, the second paragraph of this article says, President Hugo Chavez's administration blames the food supply problems on unscrupulous speculators, but industry... Why did that get covered up? But industry officials say government price controls that strangle profits are responsible. Okay, so you've got people throwing rocks at each other in this scenario. All right, well, let's look at it objectively for a moment and look at the actual system of supply and demand. And think about it this way. In Venezuela, there's an obvious overabundance of agricultural products, chicken, beef, or whatever, simply because of there's a heavy agricultural industry there, farmers, because it's a very rural country. All right, Venezuela exports a lot of goods to neighboring South American countries and whatnot. So then you come to an issue of the capitalist structure is based around scarcity. Every modern economic model is the idea that scarcity must be maintained in order to maintain an equilibrium between supply and demand. If there's an overabundance of product, then it floors prices, making actually destroying the capitalist system. Okay, so you've got these checks and balances that are there. All right. But look at the very first one. President Hugo Chavez's administration blames the food supply problems on unscrupulous speculators. See, this is where I would back Chavez up 100%, simply because he, by getting the law of decree, made a hasty decision. See, because here's where Castro didn't make mistakes, was that he nationalized foreign companies, that had interests inside Cuba, and he didn't go for price fixing initially. As a matter of fact, he didn't go for price fixing for a very long time until the embargo started hitting. All right. But Chavez thought, and maybe, I'm sure it was a mistake at the time, and he's at the bottom of the article, or in the other article, it's alluding to the fact that he's trying to kind of make up for it. But speculators control market prices, and whenever there's X amount of export going on in a country, the speculator says, well, there will be so much supply in the country versus demand. Whenever the government comes in and sets a set price, then the actual providers end up losing money simply because it says down here it takes $2.41 per pound without including any markup to simply get the beef to the retailers. Okay, now this is where the system is corrupt. The government set the price of beef at $1.82 per pound.
Right, so it's at a loss to even.
Right, they're having to operate at a loss to meet government regulations. All right, so but if you think about that for a minute, why does it cost $2.41 per pound to get a local product from A to B? Speculation.
What do you mean speculation?
The people that speculate markets based on exports, imports, and set monetary guidelines, and when it comes to private trade, which is actually marginalized there, you're talking about see, not everything's been nationalized. Trucking, packaging, it's not all nationalized, so they're still able to charge basically whatever the fuck they want to. So what this boils down to, in my eyes, is a case of the government setting a fair price for a locally produced product, but the fact that it costs so much is simply out of the government's hands because they chose not to, or they haven't gotten around to nationalizing.
I don't think so.
But I'm not saying they should get around to nationalizing. This is where I stop defending Chavez, is because
I don't think it's just like greedy truck drivers that are keeping this stuff from.
It's not just greedy truck drivers. It's the banks that offer loans to companies that charge certain interest rates on things. It's a whole goddamn mess of economics involved in trying to implement a socialist structure. It's a whole mess.
And it won't work in the long term.
But whenever you say the socialism's ugly head, this is what I'm talking about. This is why it's so ugly, is because socialism can't be just installed in its purest form. If it were, there'd be no ugly head and there'd only be mediocrity, which is why I'm not socialist. I don't believe in mediocrity. So that's what I'm saying, is that for the perfect socialist state, you would have to basically have an autonomous government that is independent and neutral but controls and sets prices based on. See, in other words, I don't see a team of economists working for Chavez.
No, not even close.
Exactly. I think, this is the problem.
Chavez maybe sitting by himself.
Yes, he is. He's got the power of law by decree, which I don't agree with. And this is how he shoves something up his own ass.
All right, we'll take away any sort of because I'm not like, when I sent you that link, I wasn't thinking about it from like a free market libertarian sort of standpoint, even though I dislike socialism. Looking at the whole situation in Venezuela since the beginning, a while ago when he nationalized all the natural resources and all that stuff, I was kind of just looking at like, okay, well, I want to see what happens. I wasn't handing out any sort of judgment just yet. And I just think it's funny. It's like following the same sort of like nasty patterns as a lot of other people who have tried to have the same structure as before.
But because this one is more authoritarian. See, this is my initial optimism over Chavez and his energy was based around the fact that he did have popular support, and most of his social programs
He
are
still has
still
popular
going strong.
support.
Well, that's right.
But
And-
but how well, hold on. Let's talk about the social programs for a second. Okay, how does he pay for the social programs? Now, one, he has all the oil and
Yeah,
that's helping a lot.
Yes.
But inflation is going through the roof in that country. Just in the last couple of years,
Inflation will go through the roof as long as there's the as I was saying, the supply and demand problem of international trade based on exports. Whenever the exports start going out and only certain X amount of money or goods comes in, dollars can be inflated in exactly the same way. When I was listening to Ron Paul earlier talking to Paul Bernanke, the new head of the Federal Reserve, and he mentioned a very similar kind of side effect of operating on deficit.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got basically a country that is trying to install socialism, but is working from a capitalist background that is still kind of based on a deficit system. In order to maintain itself, it must maintain a deficit. But for socialism to maintain itself, it must be completely independent, which is really hard to for somebody like Chavez to do with law by decree, simply because he's not an economist. I mean, it really comes down to having an economist sit there and tell you what to do. And it needs to be an economist that understands all sides of the economy and not just from a capitalist perspective. What I'm saying is that Hugo Chavez has made a huge fucking mistake. He really has.
Well, okay,
But
hold
it's
on.
not
So-
a mistake that I'm holding him personally accountable for. Simply
Of
because
course, it's not a mistake to hold them personally accountable. But I mean, this is just something that happens. One, in statism, and two, in extremely inflated statism, such as socialism, where, or what it's social fascism or whatever, which is what's pretty much looks like it's gonna turn into.
No, it's authoritarian socialism.
Blah blah. Yeah.
It's not fascist by any means, because
know.
Iran is more a fascist state. It's the people of Venezuela are not fascist and won't buy into it. There's a large feeling of community throughout South America, and they're very much part of it. And there's still a lot of revolutionary movement going on in South America. So the idea of fascism in any one state would be undercut nearly immediately upon attempt at initiating it.
Okay, I retract that one. I get it. Okay, what else? Oh yeah, inflation. I don't know a whole lot about economics. I mean, I know a pretty fucking fair amount. But, now let's see. I thought inflation happened when, you have more money than is actually backed up by anything.
Well, yes, but it's a consequence of trade. That's true. You can inflate dollars artificially, and that is essential inflation. But its initial cause is the excess trade of goods, especially when, say, a farmer. I was thinking about this scenario the other night in my head.
Mm-hmm.
There's a farmer. He's been farming his family 100 years or whatever, and and his son. All of a sudden, the farmer gets let's not go over that one. There are two examples I came up with.
Okay, well, let me say what I thought was going on, and then, I guess, I don't know, tell me, evaluate it or something. I thought that the inflation rate would be going through the roof now that he's nationalized all these things and implemented all these social programs, because the way he's doing that would be by printing more money.
No. He's not buying them.
What do you mean buying them? I didn't say buying.
Why would he have to print more money?
To implement social programs.
No, he can take the liquid assets from the companies that he's annexed in order to give back to the social programs, or the profits of which.
Awful.
No, it's not awful. I mean, that's.
It's stealing. It's awful.
It's not stealing. It's
Yeah,
the
it
company's
is.
responsibility to pay into the society in which they live. I mean, that's even true in America. In a corporation,
well,
free
no,
market,
no.
even a free market functions that way.
Fine, if that's not stealing, then what?
What Hugo
Chavez
Chavez
said-
did was stealing, and that's what
Yes,
Fidel
yes,
Castro
of
did.
course
He
it's
stole
stealing.
the businesses.
Yeah,
But-
and Chavez said on his radio show this weekend that I don't know if it was in one of the articles I sent you or not, but he said that he would, if another grocery store or market or something was caught hoarding goods, then or selling them above the fixed prices, that they would become part of the state.
But see, that's what I was alluding to as being the initial cause of inflation is scarcity of product. This is what.
Scarcity of product isn't the initial cause of it.
Yes, it is, because if there's an artificial scarcity of a product, then the prices go up. And whenever any type of financial institution tries to recoup this by either lowering interest rates, increasing credit, or printing more money, the price goes back down. But it doesn't solve the scarcity of the product problem unless the farmer simply wants to start to release more of his supply than he'd like to. You see what I'm saying? To kind of make up for the demand. That's why I started talking about the model of the farmer, which is if you got a farmer in a small community and he's got a 10-acre farm, it's more than enough food to feed this small community. But then someone from next door comes over and offers, hey, I will buy in quantity, because from year after year his entire crop is not getting eaten up, so he ends up feeding it to animals or whatever. And but somebody comes along and says, hey, I'll buy this 20% that you generally end up with in excess, at a commodity price, and then we'll see how that goes. So then the next year comes around and says, hey, my demand's going up, so I'll pay you slightly more, plus I want 30%. So in the meantime, it starts to make the product more scarce in this local economy, it can make the price go up. If the farmer were smart, he would try to take care of his local buyers by keeping the prices fixed, but increasing the price of the commodity products. But then he starts to bite into their supply. So when the supply starts to go down, he has no choice but to raise prices on people that it's not a fixed price. You see what I'm saying? And when that gets inflated, the people have to either come up with more money, which was what banks are for, which is why dollars get inflated, or they have to do without.
But banks inflate money?
Yes, well, that's what the Federal Reserve does.
But the Federal Reserve prints money.
Yeah, that's right. It inflated whenever the Federal Reserve buys securities or bonds on an open market from banks. The Federal Reserve prints money to cover that, thereby putting liquid money into the economy of these banks, right? And then the banks pay that back at interest, but they actually rarely do. But there's all this extra money floating around. So every time that the Federal Reserve starts buying up these things, then the more fluid cash is coming out. That lowers the price of things simply because there's more. No, it raises the price of things because there's more money out there. But the banks are ultimately the ones that choose, because based on credit extensions, how to what interest rate to charge on this and that, putting the people in debt, also making money scarce to debtors. So whenever you make money scarce and a product scarce, then inflation occurs naturally.
Money scarce? What?
Money
so
becomes
confused.
scarce because people are in debt. When people are in debt,
and
money
people
is
are
scarce.
in debt because banks are giving out credit?
Yes. That is what debt is. That's the definition
Yeah.
of debt, is you've taken advantage of an extension of credit. So when you are a debtor, money is scarce because you owe more than X. And X being what you actually need, like what you demand. I can't spell it out very eloquently, I know. But what I'm saying is, inflation, yes, essentially can be defined as more money in a system than there are reserves.
So the inflation
But it's not that
here, okay, so the inflation here is caused
simple. By trade deficit.
Uh-huh.
In one way. But inflation here is also caused by the extensions of credit, not just to people, but to corporations. And the Federal Reserve buying the bonds and securities from banks and printing up the money to secure the bonds.
But they have a Federal Reserve in Venezuela? I was talking about Venezuela.
No, I'm not talking about Venezuela at all. I was talking about just kind of general economics of capitalism. But
Well, yesterday I watched that Ludwig von Mises Institute, that video, Money, Banking, and the Federal Reserve.
right.
That was cool.
Right. Oh yeah, that's awesome. And
oh my gosh, though, but that was why my teacher, my U.S. history teacher, she said that she knows that a lot of the stuff she's teaching us is a fucking lie, but she teaches us it anyway.
Yeah.
Because that's what she's supposed to do.
Sure. But what I'm saying is that there is a very kind of complicated but still understandable system of basic inflation and basic economics. And what I'm saying is there's a there's an essential problem. That is the essential problem of Venezuela right now, is that the old system dictates that those checks and balances are still in force. But Hugo Chavez, by having power of law by decree, is saying, well, I'm going to fix these prices without an understanding of not only their ramifications in the immediate future, but the fact that they're not completely, he's not able to efficiently initiate them simply because that system is still based on supply and demand. Any system that's based on supply and demand is inherently capitalist.
I really don't like that term, capitalist. It's so, inefficient. Okay, so...
Well, anyway, I'm just saying, Hugo Chavez made a mistake that he's not...
Well, alright, so
he has ideals that he's going after. He just made a kind of a mistake. But then again, on the other link you sent me...
Well, hold on, though. So, I think Venezuela is, kind of, fucked right now, and it's gonna get worse if, they don't seriously fix some stuff. How do you think they should, or how could they possibly fix, the inflation problem? Because that's one of their hugest problems. Along with the price fixing, but that can be fixed relatively easily.
But that's where inflation is coming from, is what I'm saying, is from the people that are hoarding the products.
Do they just like isolationist in trading or whatever, and just not trade with anyone else?
I'm just saying.
You said that socialism has to be self-contained or self-sustaining.
Well, pretty much to some degree, there is an opportunity for outside, reciprocation of goods, but you have to properly implement a socialist system such as Cuba's in a certain manner, like Fidel Castro did. Not like Chavez is doing. He's not doing it the way that Castro did.
If Cuba didn't have all the sanctions and embargoes and everything on it, would it be like as big as Japan or something now, or would it still be like some dinky little nation?
Oh well. They've been under embargo since 1961, so it's hard to say. I mean,
can like an extremely socialist state work on a predominantly free market? Yeah.
Yes, but it's complicated, but not nearly as complicated as the intermingling of two capitalist countries, because then you've got two that are operating on deficit.
It seems like I don't know. It just seems to me that like socialism is just a big I don't know. It's just a big happy lie or something.
No, it's a mediocre thing. So I'm saying socialism works in a place like Cuba, in part by the embargoes.
Woohoo!
If it weren't for the embargoes, it would be, it would be different. I have a feeling that Castro could handle it much better than Chavez could. See, Chavez's thing is that he's still trying to cooperate with these various capitalist countries in a moderate fashion, which he didn't totally annex these businesses. He simply told, like Shell Incorporated, that in order to continue doing business in our country, we get proprietary use of the oil, and we get proprietary profit, and anything else is yours. You know, they're still private companies, but he basically has economic control over them. Along the same, see, that's where I really need to do some soul searching on this, because the way that Castro did it worked, and because he did it.
So you say you're not a socialist, but why are you like touting this as like a good thing?
No, I'm not touting it as a good thing. I'm saying it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out.
No, not just in Venezuela, but in like Cuba.
Well, I point out in Cuba simply because I speak from an objective point of view, which is, well, I don't align with that, I don't align with this, but Castro's steps has actually maintained his economy for 50 years. Socialist, isolation, whatever. He made the proper steps to implement socialism on a workable level that's lasted this long, still with popular support. So, but it's not the perfect system, obviously, and no system is. But what I'm saying is that if I were a socialist, I would look to Cuba for answers. But I'm not. So I don't look to Cuba for answers. I would never do what Castro did. If I got into power and office, I would not take the steps that Castro did. I would not take the steps that Chavez did. But what I'm saying is that for their ideals and what they were trying to implement, Castro did take the right steps. But it's questionable whether or not Chavez has. Which is something, that's why I say I need to do soul searching. I'm simply, as a strategist, I'm speaking, basically. Based on their political ideals, Castro was a good strategist, and it's worked for him. But it may or may not work for Chavez, but I really need to sit and think about it. And think about all the possible ramifications.
I just feel bad for the people there.
You should. They've got it good.
They have it good?
And
I mean, I'm a vegan, but I mean, when you can't go to the store and get what you want to buy, all you can pick from is like chicken feet and like some other piece of crap.
Well, it's not unless you want to pay more.
Unless you want to pay more in the black market, yeah.
Right, but that's the whole thing. That's why you were asking about inflation.
Hold on.
That's what's causing the inflation. It's not the economy of the country in inflation.
Hold on. If you are okay, I assume this would be law, but I'm not sure. If you are a citizen of Venezuela and you're regularly buying things on the black market, would there be a penalty if you got caught?
Of course.
Of course. Well, then I feel bad for the people.
But then again, probably not. They'd probably come down much harder on
the businesses?
Oh, of course.
Of course,
because
but
that's and even in the United States.
Fine. I feel bad for the farmers that can't operate at can't operate even at even.
The farmers can, but it was the cost. I mean, the main contention here is the cost of delivery.
I don't know. In one article I read, it said that that was the cost they were selling beef at. It may have been the same article that I sent you, but it said the cost that they were selling beef at was the same as what it costs for the slaughter guy to sell it, and that has to do a lot with the
It was talking about for delivery. I don't mean like truck drivers. I'm saying overall delivery. It was more than what the government fixed price is. Right.
So you don't think I should feel bad for anybody in Venezuela right now?
No. I'm not saying that. You can feel bad for them. That's great.
You don't think there's any reason to?
We're getting a call from Diana. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Hey, hello, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hi.
Are you on your own? Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Hi.
You're not listening to the show?
Yeah, I saw you were on your own for a second. I mean, I'm listening here to the show though, and I hear you both, but when you pick up the phone and everything sounds so silent.
Okay.
Okay.
What's up?
So I'm just calling to say hello.
Okay.
And I actually have a question for Sally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, more of a series of questions that maybe you can, summarize for me.
Okay.
Well, tell me about yourself. We don't know anything. I don't know anything about you. And where are you born? Where were you born? And how old are you? And that kind of stuff.
I'm 16. I was born in Austin, Texas. Next question.
Next question. Okay. So, what is your background?
I went to a evangelical private school. Then I went to public school. Then I hated public school. Then
You hated what?
Public school.
Public
Then I
school?
went to high school, and then I and that's it. I'm a vegan. I'm very.
Well, yeah, that's another question I wanted to ask you because I used to be a vegan. And
Really?
I'm so interested, and yeah, I was a vegan for I think 2 years after I had my son when I was 21, and I was, and I loved the lifestyle and everything. I have my reasons for being a vegan, and I wonder what your reasons are.
Well, it's purely okay. Well, for being a vegetarian, which came first, is because I don't want to profit from the suffering. Not profit, but I don't want to derive any enjoyment or anything from, the killing of an animal. And then as far as dairy goes, and eggs and that sort of thing, it was because I don't want to, again, derive any sustenance or anything from the suffering of an animal.
Right.
And it's not strict veganism, as in I eat honey because it's an insect. I don't know. My veganism is kind of gray because it's more based in moral protest than anything else.
Yeah, I hear you. That's the same reason why I did it. And it was nobody understood me though. I felt so alone when I was a vegan. Yeah, somebody said I think Diana's drunk in the chat room, and they're right. I'm not drunk though. This is my second drink. I could not be drunk from 2 drinks.
Mhm.
So anyways, yeah, I felt so alone and so misunderstood, when I was a vegan. Even my husband, he could not understand. And I was trying to turn everybody into a vegan. I could not understand why everybody else was not, did not realize how wrong it was.
Mhm. Well, I don't pressure anybody to be a vegan, but I definitely
I know.
when they eat chicken in front of me.
Yeah, I mean,
how dare you?
Yeah. Well, it's. I mean, when you feel so strongly about something, it's so hard not to, think or not think why everybody is, not doing that very same thing. Because I mean, you think that the entire world is your world is the entire world. You know what I mean? So everybody should be doing that.
Well, we were talking about Venezuela when you called in, and kind of socialist structures in general, and how they interact
Oh, you were?
with...
Okay.
Yeah, and how they interact with the world market.
Yeah, I can ask you those questions. Yeah, no problem.
Well, no, do you have, do you have any opinions on, socialism, or, economics of that, or Venezuela, or whatever?
Yeah, I do, actually, I do. But I'm just not in the mood to talk right now, because I'm slurring my words.
Okay.
And, yeah, I'm not able to talk as clearly as I should, so I don't want to, embarrass myself or think as clearly after a couple drinks.
Well, that was fun. I actually feel closer to Sally now.
You feel closer to Sally?
Yeah, you got all that information out of her. I didn't have the guts to ask.
Why?
Because I'm nervous around girls.
Okay.
Like she's right in front of you, is she? So, anyways, I'll let you guys, talk about, your politics. that you are so much in love with, and I shall leave.
Okay,
Thank you
Diana.
for your answers.
Welcome.
Well, thank you for calling.
Bye bye.
Sure.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
We always entertaining Diana Chance.
Yeah, only entertaining Diana Chance. So, all right, here we go. What I was saying was that the reason I keep saying consequences or the things that cause inflation is because I want to refer back to when I was talking about the cost of getting a product out. All right, so whenever these supermarkets or whatever that are holding back products to artificially inflate the price for whatever reason, it doesn't go into detail about how scarce the product is. It simply says that it costs too much to supply. Right? All right. Now, the scarcity of the product, whether it's artificial or real, isn't being addressed by Chavez. So here we have a problem of, either the trucking company, the farmer himself, whoever is not cooperating with the government, or the supermarkets. But we're getting another call.
All right.
So hang on, here we go. You're on the air.
Hey, it's me, Artemis. I
Hey.
just have a quick one today, actually. I was talking to my business law professor earlier today, and we were having a political discussion, and his statement really was to the whole class that it doesn't matter the governmental structure.
Really?
Socialism, communism, they all work if there's no corruption. That's the problem.
Well, yeah,
All of them
that's
work,
pretty much
but
the thing. So in
corruption
one,
doesn't exist.
Well, work. Hold on.
Work if there wasn't
Before-
corruption.
That
Capitalism
sounds-
would work if it wasn't,
Hold
if
on,
there
that
wasn't
sounds-
corruption.
That sounds kind of nice, but I mean, I won't. I'm not going to jump on that and agree with you. But I mean,
Well,
not
but
not
wait a
yet.
minute,
Not yet.
because
Because
they
hold
all
on.
work if it
It
wasn't for
hold on. It depends on what you mean by work. As in, like, work to what ends? You know, if you want
work
everyone
to
to be
their
equal,
stated goal.
There's work to their
Right.
stated goal, I guess. Yeah.
Well,
But-
that's the direction that I'm speaking from. Whenever you're asking me if I'm defending, well, I'm not really defending
Right.
anybody. I'm saying from their
Right.
stated goal, they're making the correct steps. But without corruption, he's absolutely right. And capitalism
Right.
works the same way. In fact,
Communism
capitalism
would
breeds
work in
corruption
government.
more.
Yeah, communism would be a working government if it wasn't for corruption. That's the main flaw of communism. That if there's
Well,
any
then that's
corruption whatsoever,
another question of
it's
like
corrupt.
what's corruption? Is it the corruption of the mind or something? Is it
No,
desire to
it's
own
the corruption
property?
of people.
corruption of those in power.
Yeah, the people, when they get in power, they see an opportunity to exploit the system and they take advantage. Therefore, they become corrupt in their seats of position. And then that corruption starts to turn anything in their direction or
Right.
their personal interest or their lobbyist interest or whatever. That
There were theorists, when our government itself was being built, that said, well, the problem with capitalism is that it'll turn into communism over time.
Sure. Well, that's Karl Marx said that the natural
Yeah.
progression of capitalism is that any perfect communism would
Right.
be based on a strong base of capitalism.
Right.
And whenever I mentioned last week, Sally, the parallel
well,
between
okay, I can agree with
capitalism
that. I can
and
agree with that.
communism is that they are parallel and they do move in
Hold
the
on,
same
I can-
direction,
I
only
can-
with different
on.
economic structures.
I can agree with that to the extent that if someone has a little bit of power, they're going to go and go and go until they have a massive amount of power. That's as much as I will agree with that. Like, as in,
All
a
I'm
limited
saying
government
is-
will grow and grow until it becomes a huge bloated government, like a socialist or capitalist state.
Okay. Well, then you're actually agreeing with me whenever
I
I
am,
tell
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
No, but wait a
You
second.
are.
You're agreeing with me. Something I haven't. You don't know what you're agreeing with me yet.
Okay.
Is whenever we talk about your anarcho-capitalist theories, is that they would eventually turn into this what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, but see,
That's the problem. No matter
yeah.
how you set up a
Because
government, no
that's
matter
right.
what system you use, you can't guarantee that the next generation down, once you're gone,
yeah.
will not commit the same mistakes.
Yeah,
that
I know.
you
And
prepared.
I'm agreeing with you on that. But see, the difference between me and I'm not going to say you guys because I'm not completely sure. I'm never sure where you stand, John. But between me and like let's say Marx, I guess, because he stated the same thing, would be that I see that as a bad thing, whereas he sees it as a good thing, and so we're recognizing the same trend, but just coming at it from different viewpoints.
I don't think he saw it as a good thing as much as it was a necessary thing, and that's
Right.
that's where. If you ask me where I stand, I'll tell you that I stand outside and see things as naturally progressive, just like he did.
But naturally progressive is different between good
Power
and
corrupts,
bad, or
absolute
beneficial.
power corrupts, absolutely.
Oh, right, but the natural progression kind of what that means is that by human intervention, it either expedites or retards the process of progression. All right, so in order to progress, there is a natural progression of human society, and so it depends on which one you advocate and which political direction you should go.
Hold on, where's the progression coming from, though? If you look at this,
Well, progression just simply comes from population. I mean, population increases is number one.
Okay, John, let me finish. All right, where's it coming from? Because I don't see this natural progression of to a larger community and less property coming from the people. It's coming from the people in power. As in, like, see, the kid down the street, he wants his iPod, and he wants a better iPod, and he wants a better cell phone than you.
Right.
He doesn't want us to have the same cell phone and the same iPod.
Right. But
he wants to be separate and more, free, whereas the people in power want it to be more, naturally want to extend their power.
Right, but that's just a subtle difference between certain people. Do you aspire to power?
No.
Some people do. And those people are willing to parlay material possessions simply to be in power.
Well, look at
Look at Castro.
Okay, so you're saying that communism is only propelled by the desire for power?
Not just communism. I'm talking about just certain people are driven in certain ways, and some people are driven to power more than material possession.
I mean, that's the definition of a dictator right there.
Sure.
What?
If you look it up in the dictionary, it's someone who basically rises within the government and obtains absolute power over that government. It's not the style of government that's to blame. It's the endless walks. Peace, revolution, war.
And it's a certain type of person. That's the line I'm trying to draw here, is that they're regular people like us. You read the stories about it. They're just regular people, but they didn't value the same things that you do or I do.
No, I think you missed my point. What I'm saying is that society, if you look at Western society, it's not society means like the people. They're not moving in a direction of more and more community. They're moving in a direction of less and less.
Are you sure? Because
they're demanding more and more of their government, but that's only because they see it as a
I got a good one. Based on your Western society, the increase in population is the precursor to an increase in representation in a Western government, thereby making government larger and more opportunity for power.
Right.
Well, more representation doesn't necessarily mean more social programs.
But no, it doesn't. But it means natural progression. You're asking me about natural progression. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. The U.S. has several times
but that's
during
different.
our
Those are two different tracks.
Up to having a dictator.
Sorry,
have several times. Huh?
I did it again. I'm sorry. This phone thing, you can't see when someone else starts talking. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it can. Mine can.
Well.
You got the latest version? No, I'm serious. It flashes your name whenever you're talking. Go ahead.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Does it?
Well,
Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
No, well, it's like frozen now. No, it doesn't. Shut up.
No, it does. Mine,
it does.
Around my little picture.
Oh my god, it does.
I told you it did, smart ass.
Okay. All right. The only example I was going to say was that the U.S. at several points in our history has come close to having a dictator.
And we're at a very close point now.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we're at a very close. Yeah, but it's a repeating cycle.
Sure.
Someone will always, sooner or later, grasp for power and get it.
And this is Articles of Confederation stuff. Madison and what's his name? What was the other one? Locke. I think it was Locke. And they were
That's
the
what
ones that were
Civil
most...
War,
Huh?
I mean, that's what the Civil War was really about.
Sure.
That they were afraid that their freedoms would be taken away. Everything else was, slavery was used later by the Republicans.
Yeah, the slavery was, it was a side issue.
To turn everybody.
Well, just like the War on Terror.
Right. It's the same way. It's
Yeah.
the same thing.
Of course, and there are cycles, and not just whenever I talk about cycles and natural progression, I think Sally misses my point on that, is that whenever you talk about, there's the eventual dictator that comes from free market, number one. Free market democracy has been pointed at a lot for that.
Oh,
but also,
never said free market democracy. Never advocate democracy. I never advocate democracy.
No. I'm giving you an example. I'm not pinning it on you. I'm just giving you an example. Free market democracy also big-ass dictators. But what I'm saying is that there's also a trend. I mean, there are trends and circular paths of all types, especially of political structures, and that you talk about the rise and fall of dictators, but you can also say the rise and fall of civilizations, the rise and fall of republics, the rise and fall of communist states. You know, these things work in cycles, but they tend to, I think, progress in slightly different directions, and the next one becomes more refined. Whether it's a positive refinement or a negative refinement to the overall good of the people is up for debate, which should be debated, which I'm trying to do with Venezuela and comparing with them with Cuba now. You know, debating their individual merits based on their ideals. You know, that's why I try to make separation. Okay, well, they'll rise and fall. There's a dictatorship in Cuba, but that system seems to kind of work.
Woohoo! Yeah, let's keep.
It's not a rally. It's not me throwing my hand up and say, Cuba stands strong. It's me saying, because what he intended to do, he did.
I know, but I mean, if you... Okay, I can't... I mean, I'm capable of doing this, but I don't like just...
It's being objective.
I know, I don't like just being objective on something like this, because people's lives are at stake. I mean, people's welfare is at stake and things like that.
But the important thing of being objective is to be able to rationally come to some kind of eventual strategy in order to not only combat that type of scenario in the future, but to build our own system that won't resemble it, or will resemble, or that will pick up its strong points. Because if you choose not to be objective and simply an opponent, you'll never get to learn your enemy as well.
Okay, but I mean, I'm not just going to be like, I can't just say Venezuela is doing bad or whatever, Cuba is doing good in their structures, in their desired structures, and leave it at that, you know? I'm gonna go ahead and say their desired structures are crap and oppressive.
Well, that's fine, but it doesn't mean that they're not working.
Well,
Listen. I mentioned the stuff at work because I like to do the little analogies, like my stuff with some of my equipment. I've got various equipment from around the world, and I've got this Italian equipment. It's just some of the most horrendous piece of shit machinery in history, but we're able to keep it running. It doesn't really put out a good product. It's extremely hard to maintain, but it keeps running. And if I had a choice, I'd get a German machine, or an American machine, maybe even an English machine. I wouldn't get the Italian machine, but the fact that we have it, okay, well, let's maintain it and try and keep it doing its best. You see what I'm saying? It works for what it does. But given a choice, we'd choose something else. And we're trying to Americanize it a little at a time. But that's part of, you know, just going and finding components that are essentially wrong so that we can go and modify them. I mean, it's a machine, and politics works the same way. It's one big machine, and you have to use beginning with basic mechanics to get into eventual engineering to improve the system. But you have to have an understanding of all machinery to do that. If I only knew about that Italian machinery, I would know no different. It would be probably ideal to me.
That's why the Constitution was left open-ended and open, so that changes could be made. Okay? They didn't automatically think from the beginning, well, this is right, this is the way we're doing this, and we're never going to change it. They left it open. They left it even to the people to some degree to figure out a way, you know, just in case.
That's right.
That was needed to usurp power, that it could be done.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Which I'm starting to really lean. Past couple weeks, I've been starting to lean more towards I'm taking the more not liberal, but I would say a more progressive approach to the Constitution, where I'm kind of thinking. I don't know if I defend it as much as I used to. The basic tenets of it, obviously, but I believe in an overhaul.
The document itself is not the problem; it's how it's misused.
Well,
Like
exactly.
I've been reading, like after last Sunday, after the whole conversation, I went back at looking for just reading up on it because I felt I hadn't done it in a while, and just reading through it, it's plain to see that it basically it says in several instances that this is not set in stone.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point of it, which is why I get and I mentioned that to Kobe too, and I think he got offended by it because I said that's why I have a hard time really getting behind somebody like Ron Paul, who are involving themselves directly in politics and who stand so strongly behind the Constitution, because that makes them essentially conservative.
Exactly.
And conservatism is a little bit dangerous to progress. Well, so is liberalism.
Conservatism is a little bit dangerous to
but so is liberalism.
That was funny.
I mean, in their
like,
political definitions.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so is liberalism. So it's kind of like, well, you got to find a middle ground, and I think that's just to simply be progressive, because liberals are more radical, conservatives are obviously more conservative. A more progressive approach would be to stick to our Constitution, but we have to go and add some. They're not amendments, but we need to change some of the, maybe Article 1 and such and such. Add some subtext to them. To keep things like the undersignings of the president on bills from happening, because that is unconstitutional. For him to sign his name and say, okay, but also because I'm signing this into law, I now have the ability to change any part of the law by my signature alone, simply because I signed the bill, which is what he did with the Military Commissions Act. So that's unconstitutional, and the Supreme Court ruled as such, but it didn't go back to the House. You see what I'm saying? So that's the breach of the Constitution. That's the kind of thing we need to go back and reiterate and make sure that it's worded very, very clearly in the Constitution, because right now it's a little cloudy, which is why no one's up in fucking arms. Well, people are up in fucking arms about that one particular thing, but we need to kind of reshape it so that it can never happen again, because he's opened the door for every future president in history to make it worse.
Yep.
It's power of law by decree.
Kind of, yeah, I guess. Well.
Yes, because it allows him to modify law at will. Because as it passes the House of Representatives, it goes to Senate for review, and then the president signs it. But as he signs it, he's putting in his own modification to the law, which he is not allowed to do as executor of law of the United States. He is not allowed to do that. But he's done it. And it's been done by other presidents. But it's got to stop. Because of their transgressions, it's allowed him to transgress.
Boot the mofo. I mean, gosh, there's only so much.
We have to fix the Constitution.
Yeah, we'll fix the Constitution. Yeah, I know,
and change our representative body a little bit.
Yeah, kind of gotta, get the corruption. I guess if we're gonna play within a naturally corrupt system, kind of clean out the corruption. I mean, I guess.
Exactly.
Well, even in the video you made recently, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, when you literally read.
Yes, yeah.
Deciding fact.
Mm-hmm.
That was the Declaration of Independence.
The direct, from the Declaration. Well, anyway, from the document.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out of class. Art history. Right. Even from that, they basically set the standards that, okay, if they do this, they're corrupt.
Yeah.
And it's up to the people.
This is a cause for revolution. And that was what it was a revolutionary document.
Right.
Because these were the descendants of, from Europe, who
I think it's so
had
sad.
to, go through different revolutions and different kings. I mean, it used to be, even back in the day, if a king made his people angry enough, he found his head on a pike in the town square.
Mm-hmm. That's right, which is what revolution's all about. And if he wanted to act in that's it's not a good thing to have somebody's head on a stake, but it's a good thing for monarchy to eventually come to terms with the fact that it has distanced itself so far from the
That
public.
document wasn't for the people. It was for the government itself to realize when it was going too far.
But based on our current democratic system, they won't realize that because of the
Right.
corruption.
That document was a warning, and they, haven't adhered to it.
Right.
That's
The
the problem.
document, the Declaration of Independence, was the warning. It was the revolutionary document which freed us from English rule, and then they wrote the Constitution to try and prevent those things from happening within our own system. And at this point, they have.
And see that, and I think one of the major problems is they'll use the document as a weapon when needed, but will ignore it when it, suits their needs as well.
Well, sure. They point to certain amendments, but they don't look at the ones they've broken.
Yeah.
And then they pass. What a fucking nightmare.
So this is an example of government getting larger and larger and having more and more control. Would you say that this is, this is natural? This is a natural progression of things,
Yes.
and because it's natural, it's fine.
It is a natural progression of capitalist democracy.
Or,
of government in general. All governments have gone this way.
Yes, all governments have gone this way, but this unique way was caused by capitalism. But the other governments who went their way, they went their way because communism went on. Actually, a different form of capitalism, which was still based on a monetary system.
Well, I would say that communism is sort of the exception in this, as far as governmental bloating goes, because it starts off with the idea of being bloated. But our government, it started out relatively small, and then through several hundred years, it just got larger and larger and larger. And
but you're talking about the ideals of communism, but in reality, the forms of communism that have been implemented haven't been that way. So, and the parallel between communism and capitalism is a good example in the 20th century with USSR, because it went along the same lines as capitalism until the government got so large and corrupt that it collapsed. And so the United States is going exactly the same direction, but it's like I said, it's not up to the government to start to realize. It's up to actually intervention from whatever it has its hands most in. And what the capitalist democracy of the United States has its hand most in is foreign trade right now. And so foreign trade is starting to...
Okay, but is it a good thing? I mean, what it seemed like you guys left off on earlier was that it was an okay thing for governments to grow larger and larger. And now you're talking about, like, revamping the Constitution and stuff like that.
I didn't say it was okay to go larger and larger.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not.
you're saying that it's natural and it's fine.
It's natural. It's not fine.
Right.
It's not
I
fine.
think I could. Well, all right. Somebody asked me, because I don't get angry about the government. It's not that it doesn't frustrate me. It's not that I don't think it needs to be changed. There's a reason I don't let it get to me, because I look at it as the longer now. I look at the larger timeline.
Oh yeah, me too.
I realize that our government itself will destroy itself. The people will revolt eventually. Things will change. That's the cycle. Like I
Cycle
said,
of government, yeah.
That endless waltz I was talking about. I don't get so angry about certain actions because I realize sooner or later they will come back to them. And no matter, what they change or what they do, or no matter how much power they try and grasp, they can't control the minds of the people forever.
Absolutely.
Even those that...
So
even
they
those
can
that follow them
hold the
blind-
people, but they can control your mind until you die. Doesn't that piss you off?
What do you mean?
They don't control my mind.
I mean, like, one thing that frustrates me, even if it isn't in the cycle, any sort of endless cycle.
What do you mean by control of the mind?
Well, you said that, so I took what you said.
Well, wait a
I was
second.
just reflecting
Let me
on
point
it.
something out here. What I'm doing, and I think what Arvu is talking about, which I agree with him, you take a long perspective, and you have to take other systems into account whenever you try and deduce this conclusion, which is, yes, things are circular, and they tend to kind of repeat themselves throughout history. Point is, you have to look at them, analyze them, and look at their strengths and faults, and whenever it comes time to either install a new system or refine the one that you have to not only be able to learn from that one, You have to be able to learn from others, because if you only learn from that one, then that's all you know.
Yes.
So
It's also it also goes along with the statement, don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. There's so many people right now that are angry, and then it'll end up doing something dumb that basically make anybody who's against the government in terms of trying to change it look like, gun toting, warmongering jackets.
Well,
what I'm saying is,
right, rash actions.
Rash actions are bad, but I think that
it-
I can't help but be angry. I mean, even if something is a cycle,
people
I mean, most things
will
are.
realize the truth whether they want to or not.
And
Okay,
but it's up to us. It's up to us.
I
What
hate
I'm trying to
pauses on
do
the
here with
radio
this whole fucking 26th of July thing, what I'm trying to do is work into an area where people can obviously exchange these ideas, get the information, and then expedite the process of the cycle in order to learn as much as possible from this cycle, other cycles, and eventually become educated enough to refine each and every last one of them, of their strong points, and implement a new one.
To end the cycle.
To end all cycles, but that one will cycle within itself, but it will be new and progressive, something that's never been seen before. Taking the strengths and weaknesses. You have to take weaknesses with strengths. I mean, that's part of being human. And even the cycle of human life parallels that of political life. And political structures. Civilizations themselves is a cycle of life. So you have to be able to take the weaknesses and use them to your advantage just as much as the strengths.
Right. Well, I don't know.
I think I'll give it to him. Where was I going with this? Rosa Parks. All right. Now, why did that moment on that bus have so much power? Other people had protested it and refused to give up their seat. That was not anything new. It was that it put a face on the problem. This little, working woman that's never hurt anybody and never spoken up, that's, a normal person, not a radical like the majority of the groups that were trying to do something were looked upon as back then. And that's why the civil rights movement pounced on it, because it put a face with it. It put a person out there who one would consider normal, no matter the race. And
it brought to light new ideas by a man named Martin Luther King Jr.
Right.
Who used non-participation, non-violence in order to get things done, and in contrast to the radicals who were self-defeating.
Now, what's going to happen is the government is going to go too far on some level. They're going to keep pushing, no matter whether Bush is in office or not. They're going to keep pushing, and there will be another example. It's almost, even if you look at history, you can see the same repetition every single damn time. There's going to be one person that's going to be the example, and then those that realize that this is the moment to strike, this is the time to act, will act upon it. And that's when change will happen.
And as long as they go about that process properly, it'll succeed.
Wait for them to hang themselves.
That's why I talk about subversive strategy, but not just subversive, but the proper strategy. You have to sit and think. You have to understand the system's weaknesses. You have to understand its strengths in order to combat it effectively from the inside.
Officially, all we as people really need to do is to not be argumentative and simply state the facts, state the truth, state the undeniable, the things that cannot be crossed, and that everyone slowly, until it's no longer a debate, whether you're liberal, Democrat, Republican, whatever, who gives a shit?
Right, it's a means of
action. Undeniable fact. It'll be undeniable truth, something that can't be denied. And once that hits critical mass, that's when I think that person will come to rise, that becomes, whether they be a martyr or not. I mean, what do you think, I mean, in every revolution, every single one has somebody that sparked the fire. There's always an example. There's always one person. I mean, Boston Tea Party for us.
Yeah, George Washington.
Revolution. I could keep going.
The murder of Archduke Ferdinand of Bosnia started World War II. Every single one. There's protesting in the streets does nothing because we're a joke.
of them were just emulating, our parents and grandparents from the '60s that protested.
Yep.
Well,
let's we're going to go ahead and close up with that. I really appreciate that call. I think we got somewhere actually.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good conversation because we're going to close up the show now.
I'm not drunk. Just
Well, neither am I.
I'm just letting you know. It's just I thought that was funny, but anyway, I'm gonna go do homework, and I enjoy jumping on and talking to you guys.
All right, then. Well, thank you for calling, man. I'll see you. We'll see you Sunday.
You're welcome.
All right, bye.
Bye.
And then I guess with that, Sally,
Hmm?
we're gonna close up shop tonight.
Okay.
All right. You have the best damn night you possibly can.
Right.
And everybody else, Sally, would you like to say anything to the people?
Goodbye.
All right. All right. So that was a goodbye from our sweet dear Sally. I think we got somewhere with tonight's show. Thank you, Artie, for calling. Thanks, Diana Chance, for calling. And we're going to I'm gonna play a little music. I think I got some reading to do. Anyway, I'll hang around and play some music for you guys for a few minutes. And but in the meantime, good night. Thanks for listening. And I'll get Sunday nights and Wednesday nights tonight's show up the next day or so. So again, good night. Peace be upon you, and bah humbug.
And during the few moments that we have left, we want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.